Antigone, the tragic heroine of the Theban myth. Welcome everyone. Today we're learning about Antigone, one of the greatest Greek tragedies written by Sophocles. The play was written around 441 BCE in ancient Greek, and it forms the third part of the Theban trilogy, after Oedipus Rex and Oedipus at Colonus. The story takes place in the royal palace of Thebes. The main characters are Antigone, daughter of Oedipus. She represents moral duty and divine law. Creon, the king. He stands for state law and human authority. Ismene, Antigone's sister, caught between loyalty and fear. Haemon, Creon's son and Antigone's fiancé. Tiresias, the blind prophet. Eurydice, Creon's wife. Keep in mind, the real conflict in this play is not between good and evil, but between two kinds of right, moral duty versus political law. Mythological background. The play belongs to the Theban cycle, which revolves around the cursed family of Oedipus. After Oedipus's death, his two sons, Eteocles and Polynices, fight for the throne and kill each other. Creon becomes the new king and honors Eteocles with a proper burial, but forbids anyone to bury Polynices, calling him a traitor. Antigone, out of love and respect for divine law, decides to bury her brother anyway. Her act of courage, or defiance, brings tragedy. Creon orders her death, and later, his son Haemon and wife Eurydice also die. So, the curse of Oedipus continues. This background shows how Antigone is a story of fate, faith, and moral conviction. Summary of the play. Let's quickly go through the main parts of the play. 1. In the prologue, Antigone tells Ismene her plan to bury Polynices. Ismene refuses because she's scared of breaking Creon's law. 2. In the Parodos, the chorus celebrates Thebes' victory. 3. In episode 1, Creon announces his law forbidding Polynices' burial. Soon, the guard reports someone has done it. 4. In episode 2, Antigone is caught. She proudly admits what she did and refuses to apologize. 5. In episode 3, Haemon argues with his father, trying to defend Antigone's decision. 6. In episode 4, Antigone is taken to her tomb alive. Her speeches here are full of grief and moral strength. 7. In episode 5, the prophet Tiresias warns Creon that the gods are angry. 8. Finally, in the Exodus, Creon realizes his mistake, but too late. Antigone, Haemon, and Eurydice are all dead. The ending teaches that pride and stubbornness lead to suffering, and wisdom comes only after pain. Themes and symbolism. The key themes of Antigone are divine law versus human law. Should we obey the gods or the king? Moral courage. Antigone stands for what's right even at the cost of her life. Fate and free will. The curse of Oedipus still affects his children. Gender and power. Antigone challenges male authority in a patriarchal society. Symbols include the tomb, symbolizing the boundary between life and death. The dust, representing faith and defiance when Antigone buries her brother. Creon's edict, symbolizing rigid authority and pride. Character traits. Let's understand the major characters. Antigone, she is brave, loyal, and morally strong. She follows the divine law of the gods rather than the temporary law of humans. Her choice makes her a tragic heroine. Creon, the king, who values order and authority above everything. His flaw is hubris, or excessive pride. Through his suffering, he learns wisdom, a typical Sophoclean lesson. Ismene represents the cautious, traditional woman. She fears the king and society. Her contrast with Antigone shows the struggle between fear and faith. Haemon symbolizes love, reason, and compassion. His death shows the cost of Creon's pride. Structure of Greek tragedy. A Greek tragedy follows a very clear structure. Prologue introduces the moral conflict. Parodos. The chorus enters, expressing civic pride. Episodes. The main action, debates, confrontations, and conflicts. Stasima, choral odes. The chorus reflects on what just happened and comments on human nature. Exodus. The final resolution, usually ending in suffering, but leading to wisdom. Sophocles believed that human beings learn only through suffering, and that idea forms the heart of Antigone. Major quotes, for UGC NET and analysis. Let's look at some important quotes and what they mean. These are also valuable for UGC NET exams. 1. I was born to love, not to hate. Antigone. This line beautifully shows her belief in divine love and moral goodness. She values love and duty over politics and hatred. 2. There is no greater evil than disobedience. Creon. This shows Creon's rigid view of authority. For him, obeying the state is more important than following the heart. 3 feet. The laws of the gods are mighty and they live forever. Antigone. This is the central idea of the play. Divine law is eternal, while human law is temporary. 4. No man can be fully known until he has been tested by rule and law. Creon. This reflects political wisdom. True character is revealed only when one has power. 5 feet. Wisdom comes through suffering. Chorus. This is the essence of Sophoclean tragedy. People realize their mistakes only after pain and loss. You can remember this slide as ***, love, law, power, and pawn, the 4 pillars of Antigone's message. UGC NET exam pointers. Here's a quick summary of what's useful for exams. Play, Antigone by Sophocles, written around 441 BCE. Genre, Greek tragedy, tragic hero debate. Both Antigone and Creon can be seen as tragic heroes. Each has a hamartia or fatal flaw, Antigone's stubborn righteousness and Creon's pride. Major themes: divine law versus human law, hubris, fate, justice, and moral choice. Chorus acts as the moral voice and philosophical commentator. Symbols: tomb equals boundary of life and death. Dust equals faith and defiance. Creon's edict equals tyranny of state law. Moral lesson: follow your conscience and divine truth, even when it conflicts with earthly power. Antigone versus Creon, UGC NET comparison. This is one of the most asked comparison topics in exams. Let's compare them. Antigone stands for divine law. Her actions are guided by moral and religious duty. Creon stands for human law. His actions are guided by order and authority. Both are strong-willed and both are right in their own way, and that's why this is not a fight between good and evil, but between 2 types of right. Antigone's flaw is unyielding devotion to moral law. Creon's flaw is pride in political authority. Both learn too late, and both suffer loss. You can remember this as the collision of 2 rights, moral right versus civic right. Tragic vision of Sophocles. Sophocles believed that real wisdom only comes through pain. His moral vision can be summed up in 3 steps. Suffering gives knowledge, gives wisdom. In Antigone, both characters suffer. Antigone dies for what she believes in. Creon lives but loses everything: his son, his wife, and his pride. The tragedy shows that justice is not one-sided. Society needs both moral duty and state order to survive, but they must exist in balance. Sophocles teaches us, when either side dominates, tragedy begins. Critical interpretations. For competitive exams, let's see how critics interpret Antigone. Hegelian reading. Hegel said this play shows the conflict between 2 rights, moral duty, Antigone, and political law, Creon. He called it a tragedy of collision. Feminist reading. Antigone is seen as an early voice of feminism. She challenges male power and questions women's silence in patriarchal systems. Psychoanalytic reading. From Freud's point of view, the play continues the Oedipus family tension. Antigone's death wish represents the thanatos or death drive, and Creon's control shows ego and authority. Aristotelian reading. Both Antigone and Creon fit Aristotle's model of tragedy. They have hamartia, flaw, anagnorisis, recognition, and their story causes catharsis, emotional purification, in the audience. Important exam facts. UGC NET quick notes. Let's quickly revise key technical terms. Play type, tragedy. Chorus role. Acts as the moral guide and voice of divine justice. Hubris. Creon's excessive pride, his main flaw. Hamartia. His mistake of ignoring divine law. Nemesis. The destruction of his family, his punishment. Catharsis. The audience feels pity and fear, leading to emotional cleansing. Divine law. The eternal moral law of the gods. Human law. Temporary, man-made authority. Tip for exams. Remember this as H2NCDC. Right pointing arrow: hubris, hamartia, nemesis, chorus, divine, civic law. Moral and philosophical insight. This play is not just about rebellion or disobedience, it's about moral hierarchy and conscience. Antigone dies physically, but she wins spiritually because she followed divine truth. Creon, on the other hand, lives physically but dies spiritually, because he realizes his pride too late. The message is timeless: moral courage and conscience are stronger than political power. Antigone becomes the eternal voice of moral truth. UGC NET Quick Revision Table. This slide gives a short summary of what you must remember. Play, Antigone. Author: Sophocles. Genre: Greek tragedy. Conflict: divine law versus human law. Tragic heroes: Antigone and Creon. Moral: balance between duty to gods and duty to state. Structure: prologue, right pointing arrow, episodes, right pointing arrow, choral odes, right pointing arrow, Exodus. Keywords: hubris, hamartia, catharsis, anagnorisis, divine law. Use this slide for your last-minute revision before exams. It covers everything at a glance. Summary thought. To end, let's remember what Antigone truly stands for. She is the voice of eternal conscience, a woman who chose right over rule, faith over fear, and justice over judgment. The play reminds us that laws may change, but moral truth is eternal. Antigone teaches us to stand firm for what is right, even if it costs everything. So, the spirit of Antigone lives on, as courage, conviction, and conscience in every generation.